You're listening to episode 15 of Post Production Podcast. Hello and welcome all you amazing people out there to Post Production Podcast. Thank you for joining us as we talk about movies, TV shows, and occasional gaming news. I'm your host, Mr. Drew, and with me, of course, is Adam.
What's up?
Hello.
How's it going?
So welcome today where we are going to go back in time a little bit. We're going to go back to 1999 and the release of Fight Club.
Yes. Well, you're going back. I'm experiencing it for the first time. This is my first time ever watching Fight Club, and I know I'm late, guys. Don't say anything. I'm late, I know. But I've watched it.
I'm working on him. Working on him. He's a work in progress. He's getting there.
Exactly.
He's getting there. He's slowly getting the culture drilled into him.
See, because, like a lot of people, I'm a huge fan of film, but, I'm young and I just haven't gone back. I haven't gone to the things that were popular when I was young or even before that. So this is my chance to kind of do that. So,
and that's the rough though. I mean, because there's a lot of backtracking.
There's things coming out all the time now that you're trying to catch up, but you're also trying to go back and watch things that, have been classic for so long. So I'm glad we're kind of doing this. So Fight Club, 1999, Brad Pitt, Edward Norton. It was, I think it's lived up to the hype for me at least. And this is a movie that I've wanted to see for a long time. And just like The Matrix, we did that. It's one of those movies that have been a part of pop culture ever since it's come out. Mm-hmm. And so I know the soap. I know first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club.
Which, unfortunately, we have to break.
Yeah, sorry, guys. We have to break it. That's what this thing is about. But you go through life and you hear these references. You don't really get it, but you know where it's from. It's a different experience. So, well, I want to go back and ask you, what was your kind of first impression with the movie? Did you watch it in the theater when it came out?
I saw it in the theater when it came out. And, granted, I was pretty young when this came out. I was in my mid-20s. And for me, the immediate reaction was I wanted to start my own fight club because, I grew up fighting. I grew up, wrestling and tussling and with the kids and my friends and stuff like that. So that's part of my culture. And I was ready to get right back into some fisticuffs, man. I was just like, this is the best thing since baked bread. I just want to get into this. I did not. It wasn't until years later where I watched it probably for the dozenth time. Yeah. And I really started to kind of understand all the layers that are in this movie because it is convoluted with all different types of references. But for me, my initial thing was I was just amped and hyped to just start punching somebody. Yeah, which I'm not saying is a good reaction. And I don't want anybody to go and watch this movie and then just start punching your neighbor. But that was kind of like the chord that it struck with me. After the first viewing for me. Yeah,
it's funny because I realized that it's so much deeper than the title. There's so many, like you said, there's so many layers to it. And luckily I was able to kind of, because I knew a little bit about it, I was able to kind of get into the nitty gritty of the story and realize that, this isn't just about people punching each other. There's so many different things going on in this movie. And I have to shout out Edward Norton, of course. I think he does an amazing job. I haven't seen him in a lot of things, but he's an amazing actor. I have to give him those props. And then Brad Pitt, great. Just great. He's so comedic and so just fun to watch. that
he was on point.
Yeah,
he's
everything
fun.
that he needed to be in this character. I mean, no spoilers right now. I mean, but this movie took me on a ride that I wasn't expecting, and I'm extremely happy it did, because it's worth the like 2.5 hours that it runs, because it is a long movie.
It's a pretty long movie,
but the kind of layers that it goes through is incredible. And David Fincher, props. You're an amazing director, but everyone already knew that. Yeah, those are my general kind of thoughts on it. But you want to go into like spoilers and a little more meaning?
Well, I mean, we're definitely going to talk about spoilers. I mean, if you haven't watched this movie yet, sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
you've had some time.
You know, there's not even, well, yeah, I don't have a tier for you.
Yeah. So talking spoilers now, I must admit that I did know going into it that Brad Pitt's character was just an extension or an alter ego of Edward Norton.
Edward Norton's. And that's a shame. That really is a shame, because that's, you know, once that scene comes about and you're just like, oh, like, and that twist comes out, that's a good turning point to the movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of sucks that you didn't get to experience that.
But I think I did experience it in a certain kind of sense. Like when it did happen, I still had I was still really floored by the whole notion of that. And because you spend the whole movie and it's so convincing otherwise, because I walked into it knowing that, but watching their kind of interactions and stuff, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. How are they going to kind of explain how this isn't a real person, like, with this whole thing? But, I noticed things like how, and I think he even says that, like, he was, what's her name? Marla, who's
Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah. Her character, she's never in the same room as Tyler Durden. They're never in the same room at the same time. And so I caught that. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of clever. And that's something you wouldn't catch on the first viewing, I don't think, or really give any thought to initially.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, when you watch it through the first time, it's very subtle. Like there's not, you wouldn't naturally pick up on, oh, okay, this, that, and the other. You just see these characters coming in and out and interacting and doing this and that. And then you're like, okay. And then when that twist hits, you're like, oh, wait, what the?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love this scene where he's like, yeah, Tyler's not here. And she's like, what are you talking about? And at that point, I think the audience would be like, something's weird. I just thought it was so layered and so fun to kind of go through the experience. And, also for me and anyone else who watches Mr. Robot, and this is a spoiler for Mr. Robot. So if you have not seen Mr. Robot and want to, stop listening, because we're about to spoil the
we're gonna get
thing.
Into some extra some sidebar stuff.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of things in this movie that, now looking at Mr. Robot and being a fan of it, and we're 3 seasons in, I've noticed so many things that are just they're mirrored, basically. Like they're mimicked. It kind of takes away from Mr. Robot just a little bit, but I still absolutely love it. So
is it because you had the initial impression that Mr. Robot was sort of this kind of unique perspective on this type of maybe affliction?
Yeah. So it was, Mr. Robot, spoilers, in the first season, when you meet Elliot and he meets, there's this guy, Mr. Robot, and he's following him around and talking to him, and he's everywhere. And, you don't really understand until later in the season that he's his dad, his dead father, coming back as like kind of his alter ego. And, he sees him, but he believes he's a real person. And it's not until then that the audience doesn't even know that he's not a real person.
Yeah.
Like you discover that with him, right? Same thing in Fight Club. Like he's presented as a real person. And it's not until later that you realize that while the character realizes it, that it's not. And, in the show, that's an incredible turning point. And there's so many like similarities to Fight Club and Mr. Robot, like how he kind of led this revolution and this group of people to do this thing without even knowing it, without even knowing that it was him. Those kinds of things I just, I can't unsee now because they're just so clear. Also in season 3, like there's this whole plot line of, they're blowing up all these buildings. That's a thing from Fight Club as well. And then just, I think the notion of take out all the records and bring everyone back to zero, right? And that's the whole point of Mr. Robot. So it's like...
It's almost like a ripoff.
It's almost a ripoff. And that's why it kind of... It almost ruins it, but also it's a fantastic show. So I'm not going to...
I mean, it's uncanny how similar it is because
it's crazy.
Not only do you have the main character that has an alter ego that believes it's a real person, and then understands later on that it's just another figment of his personality.
Yeah.
But you also have that storyline where, they're rebelling against a certain type of society and kind of, culture. They build themselves a following. They introduce this plan, they execute this plan, and at the end of this plan, they try to reverse it because, a part of their personality wants it to happen. The other part of it can't take the fact that, that they're doing this. So, I mean, it's parallel between the two things. And it's funny because they're almost 20 years apart.
Yeah. But Mr. Robot, it's able to kind of play with you. And there's so many more kind of ways to hide that fact. And then when you go back and watch that first season again, you see these layers. Whereas, this is a long movie, but there's only so much you can do in this amount of time. Whereas in Mr. Robot, they really play with that because it's not till like the end, like towards the end of the first season that you realize. And then I think another reference to Fight Club was in season 2. I think Mr. Robot holds a gun to his head and like just blows his Elliot's brains out. And that's kind of the reverse of Fight Club, where he ends up shooting himself and destroying Tyler Durden.
Yeah.
And another kind of Easter egg I was telling you yesterday when we were talking about it is no one ever says Edward Norton's character's name.
No.
And you never notice it.
The only time they say his name is when he's wearing the fake "Hello, my name is" in the different groups and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's either Rupert or Cornelius or I think there's a couple other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it's ingenious the way this movie is crafted. And then as you watch it a few more times, because I don't think a lot of people pick up on really the underlying kind of narration of this movie.
The narration is incredible.
Yeah, I Edward Norton does a great job in not only narrating, but acting in the role and switching back and forth. But like, did you kind of understand the I guess the thought process behind the movie? Like, what was driving Edward Norton to do the things that he did, and what was driving Brad Pitt's character to do the things he did, and kind of like where they ended up?
Well, yeah, I mean, he was this guy, and it's a big kind of jab at, us as consumers and our kind of society and how we just, we care about things that don't matter. And, he works for a company that's horrible, that does horrible things. And it kind of drives him to this point of trying to free people from that kind of society. But I've only watched it once. I already know it's one of those movies you have to go back and see the different layers of it. But yeah.
If you don't want to think too much about it, it's a fantastic movie to just enjoy all the different kind of things that happen in it. If you really want to bake your noodle, then you can really delve into the fact that this movie targets and it deals with the emasculation of men in society.
Absolutely.
Because of, you have Edward Norton's character in the beginning, and he's basically just because of his upbringing, and because of, you know, losing his father figure early on and being raised by a woman, he starts to nest, you know, so he's all about, you know, making sure that his nest is appropriate and organized and has the things that, you know, are supposed to be there. And through that process, he rebels against it, you know, he rebels against it by blowing it up and getting rid of it. So instead of having a small, tight, organized apartment, he ends up transitioning and living with Tyler Durden's character in this oversized, disorganized, disgusting house. And, you know, getting together with other males and going back to the primal side of fighting and the aggression and all this other kind of thing. And it's really interesting how in the beginning, he's emasculated as a man and kind of, you know, as a consumer and forced to do these things. And, you know, the things that we buy end up owning us and, you know, breaking away from that. And then, you know, gathering a bunch of guys together to kind of, you know, placate that same narrow view of we need to be back and we need to be men and we need to be more masculine and we need to get back of our side, and anyone who opposes us, we're going to take their balls, we're going to neuter them, we're going to take their maleness from them. And it's an interesting kind of circle how it plays back, you know, into each other, because they rebel against being drones, about being these mindless consumers, but in the end he creates a following of mindless drones to do the things that he needs them to do. Exactly. So it's almost hypocritical in a couple of different senses. So it's a lot to process going through the movie. And if you think along those lines, you'll see all the subtle hints, and then you're just going, okay, that's just way more for me to think about.
Yeah, but I do love like all the little Easter eggs, and in the beginning, before we meet Brad Pitt's character, there are little flashes of him that are just kind of cut into just random scenes. I think it happens like 2 or 3 times before you actually meet him. And then when you meet him, it kind of goes into this little bit of, you know, what he does. And he's a projectionist, and he slices... You know,
he slices pornography into family films.
Oh my god! You know, it's fantastic. Like,
what does he say when the rabbit when the rabbit meets the mouse for the very first time, and it's a wonderful moment. That's when, you know, that's when it happens. No one knows it happens, but then they feel that it happens. You know, a nice big juicy cock. And it's so brilliant the way it does it, because everyone's sitting in the theater and going,
you kind of see like, the lady
what
like,
was that, you know? And then
but they don't say anything.
They don't say anything because they're not sure what they saw. They know what they saw, but they're not sure what they saw. And it's funny because there's even you know, there's that porn that moan that accompanies that one cut of that splice. And the kids are crying. Oh, it's brilliant. I loved it.
So funny. But I like how they played into that with, you know, before they mentioned that they were literally splicing him, Tyler Durden, into Edward Norton's character's like view. Just so creative and so ahead of its time, because this movie holds up and it's still controversial. It's still, you know, pushes those boundaries, like even in 2018. So
it has a huge following.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So I'm glad I got in before. I think that's kind of the thing with me and my experience, because I didn't see Pulp Fiction until the 20th anniversary of it.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I'm a little behind, but I think I'm getting my my formula down. So I just
it's like,
have to watch.
I'm not gonna watch until it's like close to its 20th.
Yeah.
You know, because that's when it's really ripe.
Good. Yeah,
it's perfectly ripe.
Yeah. That's when it comes back around, and
that's funny.
But yeah,
it's funny because I mean, there's a massive shout of people that want a follow-up movie, that they want like a Fight Club 2, and I I for one hope that they do not.
Oh yeah, it doesn't need it.
Just leave it, let it lie, leave it alone. I mean, yes, I'd love to have another movie with this type of content, but separate, maybe. Maybe completely different with different people in no way, shape, or form connected to the original Fight Club.
But then what would be the point of that movie?
Yeah, maybe it's a different time. Maybe it's a different formula. I don't know. But
what would it be about? Just another Fight Club?
No. I mean, it doesn't really have to be about a Fight Club. I mean, because as much as, even though it's Fight Club is the title of the movie,
it's not about
it's not about the Fight Club at all.
That's why I love this movie.
About the Fight Club.
That's why I absolutely love this movie.
That premise. I mean, and that's another twist on itself is, this is about fighting.
I think the only way you could do a sequel to this movie is if you go back to Edward Norton's character and see where he is. Because that's the only thing that matters in this movie. Because the Fight Club, you could go to another city or whatever and, see their Fight Club, but that's missing the point of the whole entire first movie. It's not about the Fight Club.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think it could turn off some people who haven't seen it before. People of my generation who are like, I don't care about Fight Club. Like, that sounds dumb. It's so much more than that. And so I'm here to tell you, go watch it.
Definitely go watch it. Yeah. So good.
Anything else? I mean, I think that's pretty much it. There's so many things to talk about, but you can just kind of talk about them forever.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, if you haven't watched it, you're not listening to this, but go watch it for yourself. And even if you have watched it, go back and see those layers.
Yeah. Watch it a couple of times because I guarantee you're going to miss so much.
Yeah.
Your first viewing.
Yeah.
And then even do some watch it for the first time and then do poke around and do some research and see, what some of these Easter eggs might be. And then go back and watch it again and see if you can if you can find them.
Yeah, I knew that. And some things that I noticed in the movie, there's a lot of Starbucks, there's a lot of Krispy Kreme, and then IKEA, of course. Mm-hmm. I love that kind of scene where it's kind of catalog-like, but he's filling his apartment with all these things.
With all the things IKEA. It's fantastic.
And it's really taking that shot at us as a society.
Oh my God, I can relate.
Yeah.
Believe me, I have so much IKEA stuff.
I love IKEA.
I'll give IKEA kudos. I mean, they are brilliant in the way that, not only the construction of their stuff, but, the usability of it. So, I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from them, but
yeah, but it was
my house is full of cubes. Just
it's all cubes. I'm literally sitting on a cube right now.
It's just cubes everywhere.
But I just love that whole aspect of it. And when I first saw that, I knew at that moment this was a movie that was more complicated than what it kind of sets out to be, or what people think it is. So also, it's an incredibly quotable movie as well. Like the narration and the dialogue is so witty and it's so funny that, like, I was having a good time. I was laughing at the things and the kind of subtle sarcasm that, like, Edward Norton would have. Like, and I was reading some quotes from it, and they're just fantastic. And one thing I didn't really understand is, like, when he kept saying, like, I am Jack's raging, whatever. It's
so brilliant the way
I don't
that's
know
done.
what that is.
So
I don't know who Jack is.
Okay, so in the movie, in the house that Tyler and Edward Norton's character are sharing, they find this collection, this cache of all of these notebooks that are written by somebody wrote them, but they're written in the first person of a person's anatomy. So I am Jack's, I am Jack's, I am Mary's rage, I am Mary's pink nipple, I am Holly's left foot. So there's all these stories written in the first person of another person's body part. and there's books and books of this stuff.
Why didn't I?
So that's why he keeps quoting it. He like, I am Jack's raging hormone. I am Jack's this. I am this. I am, and it's brilliant how he ties it all in because you don't see it until
cover that.
It's about. It's right. Is
it in the beginning or is it towards
no? It's just after they move in, and then they're starting the fight club, and then they're going and they're talking about who would you fight, who would you do this, and so they're talking about like what they would do, and then I think, but
the fact that he just continually kind of blurts
this thing out. It's brilliant the way he does it. Yeah. So and the funny thing is a lot of people are wondering is who wrote the books? Did Tyler write the books? Did Edward Norton write the books? Because he you don't know when he started making soap. Yeah. How long he's been making soap in this house. I mean, there's a lot of kind of backstory that is a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
But
you really wonder, like, and that's why this movie's so brilliant, is you really believe that he's meeting this guy for the first time, and kind of he doesn't know anything about this guy, and you're learning more and more about him, and then by the end you're like, wait, that was him the entire time. So he's making the soap. He's doing this, he's doing that. Yeah. Just fantastic writing. Did this win any awards, do you know? I mean,
I have to double check. I'm not sure.
Nominated for 1 Oscar.
Oh, that's it?
That's it. Wow. That's incredible. Guess what the Oscar was for? They didn't even win this, but guess what the category was? Best effects or sound effects editing.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe.
But this isn't even, but I think that's another thing that kind of leans into that whole thing, is that this is a movie it's more than just what's on the surface, visually. There's so many different things in this movie that, like, wow, I just can't believe it wasn't nominated for more.
But I can understand that, because this is one of those movies that has to be watched through multiple times. And this isn't the type of movie that's going to tickle the feathers of judges in those types of, in the Oscars and the Golden Globes and things like that.
I mean, I guess.
I can see why it wouldn't. I mean, I don't know what came out around the same
Oscars
time as
aren't
that,
even... they look at story, and they look at the art of and complexities of a story, not box office and not like stuff that doesn't matter. So interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm actually, because I think I think somebody told me this a long time ago, but those notebooks are actually out there somewhere.
No way.
Like there's little kind of, because it's sort of, a long time ago, there was a series called Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It just came back for another.
Right. It came back
season.
for, I haven't seen the remake. It didn't get very good things, but in the original, TV show, there was a diary, right? And the diary actually was put out and in print. And the diary is actually phenomenal to read. It's an amazing thing to read. And if you've seen the TV show, reading the diary, you're just like it blows your mind to an entirely different level. Wow. And then you actually get more of an insight into this TV show. So I think that there are some of the notebooks out there that are written in the first person of the anatomy of, so those would actually be fun things to kind of find.
Yeah, that'd be read. I gotta look that up. That's cool.
That'd be fun. That would be something fun to have and leave on your coffee table.
Yeah,
for someone to just pick up randomly and go, "Wait, what am I reading?"
And just run out.
I am Jill's pink nipple. What? But other than that, watch it. Please watch it. It is a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, it's a classic in pop culture for a reason. Like yeah, it's an incredible feat of filmmaking. So, God, yeah. But that's about it, guys.
That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was another one of our classic reviews. Let us know what else we should do. I have a lot to catch up on, so the list is shortening, but it's still pretty long. So in the meantime, guys, let us know what you guys, if you have any suggestions on what we should do, email us at postproductionpod@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram. I'm at Adam Scadam on Twitter.
I'm Mr. Drew LV at Instagram. No, at Twitter. Yeah, Twitter.
One of those things.
One of those things. We're on YouTube now. Yes. Check out our channel. Give us a like, thumbs up. Check out the other episodes. Subscribe. We love your support. Leave comments. Especially on this one. I mean, some of the Easter eggs that people have found are fantastic.
But that's about it. You guys have a good one. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back next week. Not sure what we're gonna do, but
we've got some. We haven't nailed it down yet, but we've got some fun things to think about. Yeah. But join us next week. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.